I want to show you the actual data from the Mamdani campaign, because the reason I have the actual data from the Mamdani campaign is the other day I did a spy stream where we infiltrated the Democratic Socialists of America in New York City at one of their private meetings. It was so private, they kicked all the press out, but of course I didn't leave and I recorded the whole F-off thing. And I've got a bunch of charts that I want to show you guys. And if you want to watch the full meeting, you can find it on my Substack. That is Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. And the data that they had and that they showed is scary. And I bring this up because retards like this jackass have no effing clue. This guy has how many followers? 336,000 followers. He has no effing clue, and I'm going to prove that to you. He tweeted this morning, Cuomo's biggest obstacle is Eric Adams. No. With Adams out, these votes are far more likely to go to Cuomo than they are to Mamdani, as they're more moderate in nature. No. Silwa's GOP voters are less likely to vote for Cuomo than Adams and Indies and Dems. Bottom line, if Adams drops out and gets behind Cuomo, Mamdani would be in serious trouble. And I responded to him, and listen, I was doing this on my phone earlier in the morning, and so I made some typos in this, and so Sean is so fucking retarded, he got distracted by the typos, but I'm going to show you what I wrote, and then I'm going to show you the data to prove it, asshole. This is actually retarded. Yeah, I had some typos. And shows you have no clue about how the Mamdani campaign is organizing. They have over 50,000 volunteers registering new voters all over the city. Thank you, No Mayo, for that super chat. I do appreciate it. Hang on, let me add that to the total while I'm thinking about it. They have over 50,000 volunteers registering new voters all over the city. They have over 20,000 individual donations in the primary. Cuomo got 2,700. They knocked on 1.3 million doors and made over 2 million phone calls. They targeted voters disaffected by the Democrats who hate Cuomo and people who don't usually vote in mayor's races. Cuomo performed exactly as he was expected to in the primary. It was Mamdani that blew all the expectations out. Because of the organizing of the DSA, you paid shills that should have said shill, has no clue who your actual enemy is. So there were like, what, 2 or 3 typos in this entire post where I literally laid out, here is exactly how Mamdani won, and here is why you guys have no effing clue what you're talking about. And the moron GOP shill says, I'm curious, is it possible for you to write a coherent post anymore? This is a mess. You have no clue what you're talking about, you manic lunatic. Oh yeah, Sean? Oh yeah? I have no clue what I'm talking about, Sean? Okay, well, let's just see. Let me show you exactly what the data inside the Democratic Socialists of America campaign actually says in New York City. Let me show you this, Sean, because these are screenshots from the meeting that Sean has no F-off clue about because he doesn't pay attention to any of this stuff. And when Sean was shilling conservative talking points over on Twitter, I was going inside their actual private meetings and recording them and getting all their data. This is the NYC Democratic Socialists of America earlier this week doing a debrief. They had over 300 people in a giant church they were doing this debrief to. There were another couple hundred people online on a Zoom call, which is how I got access to all of this. And let me show you the internal data from the DSA about the Mamdani campaign and why they won and why conservative retards like Sean have no F-off clue what they're talking about. This is the overall results for the Democratic mayor's race in New York City. And guess what? You can actually find these results too, because the DSA built a whole website where you can look at this chart that I'm showing you on the screen now. It is results.socialist.nyc. But let me just walk you through this. What this chart says is that Zohran Mamdani won the mayoral nomination by 12 points. Zohran Mamdani beat Andrew Cuomo by 12 points. And you can see the yellow on this graph, those are all the precincts in which Zohran Mamdani won. This was not just a small win. This was a massive, massive blowout. And the reason that it was a massive blowout is the Democratic Socialists of America in New York City have organized a mass volunteer army that's been making millions of phone calls, knocking on millions of doors. They're going into mosques in New York City. There was a team of people with the DSA that went to over 150 mosques in New York City, specifically to take the issue of Palestine and weaponize it, because their position is the Democrats haven't done enough on Palestine, and they're specifically targeting people who have never registered to vote before around mosques to get them to register to vote, to become new voters in the mayor's race, to vote for Zohran Mamdani, who was the only person who said he wasn't going to go to Israel and free Palestine. The DSA has been doing a massive voter registration drive all over the city, and you're going to see proof of this in these charts. The new voter registration is insane, and they're all voting for Zohran Mamdani. But let's just walk through these one by one. This is an example of the turnout effort, because in addition to doing a voter registration drive, the DSA in New York City also did a massive voter turnout effort. So this is one example where you can see on the left, those are the highest areas of concentration that they turned out. On the left, strike that, reverse it. On the left is the highest areas of support for Zohran Mamdani in the city. On the right, in the green and pink, or the green and purple rather, those are the highest areas of turnout. So the areas that the DSA targeted specifically with a voter turnout drive ended up being the highest areas of support in New York City, and you can see it even closely. There's absolutely a correlation between the DSA's turnout effort and the overall percentage of people who voted for Zohran Mamdani. The Democrats obviously weren't doing any turnout. Cuomo obviously wasn't doing any turnout. The Republicans obviously weren't doing any turnout. It was only the DSA and their 50,000 volunteers that were doing a massive voter turnout during the mayoral nomination. And guess what? Now they just have more and more volunteers, and they have more and more money that they're working with, and now they have more and more support. Do you think this voter turnout drive is going to go anywhere? Because again, remember, a lot of the people that are turning out to vote for Zohran Mamdani, they have never voted in an NYC mayor's race before. They just got registered by the Democratic Socialists of America. So now those are their voters. And by the way, the other thing I want people to understand, the DSA in New York City is not just thinking about this one mayoral's race. The DSA in New York City is trying to do a massive effort to not only take care of this campaign, but all future campaigns. So the voter registration drive they're doing, that doesn't just apply to this, that applies to all future campaigns. So this is not just about winning one battle. They are thinking long term. Karlyn with the stealth Willy Wonka quotes. Hey, thanks, Axhead. I do appreciate the super chat. Wouldn't it be cool if we could reach that super chat goal before I even started showing you guys the good stuff? But let's continue with these charts, Sean. Here is an example of the age distribution of the people who voted in the mayor's race in New York City, again, according to the Democratic Socialists of America. And you can see, look at the increase in Democratic primary voters among people aged 18 through 39. These are the 2021 results over here. And then there was a massive increase in the total number of younger voters in the Democratic primary in 2025. Why do you think it happened? It happened because of the New York City DSA and their massive organizing effort. And if you have any questions about this, this was one of the most shocking charts of the entire presentation. These are new voter registrations just based on the DSA's turnout effort. The DSA registered, what is this, upwards of 50,000 new voters? Like, are you serious? Cumulative new registrations beginning 100 days before the registration deadline. They registered this red line right here. This is all DSA. This is all the DSA's organizing effort. They registered at least 40,000 new voters in New York City just based on this effort. Thank you, Chris Campbell, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. We are almost at that goal. Look how far along we're going. Does anyone have any questions about why Zohran Mamdani won? Do you know who has questions? The retards on the right who don't bother to look at basic information, Sean. Let's look at this case study right here. This was a specific case study they talked about on the call. This is a case study of Brighton Beach, which is a precinct in New York that apparently is near Coney Island. And the big news about this Brighton Beach precinct for the New York Democratic Socialists of America is that in 2021, only 46 people in the entire precinct voted for the Democratic candidate for mayor in Brighton Beach. Brighton Beach is one of the areas that the DSA targeted specifically for their turnout efforts and their voter registration efforts. And I'm just going to turn off the chat real quick so you can see the data on the other side of the slide. Zohran Mamdani ended up getting 71% of this vote in this district, a district that had previously gone for Eric Adams. They also tripled the number of people turning out to vote in the Democrat mayor's primary. Now, that might not seem like a big deal, but again, we have to remind ourselves this is a voter registration drive and a voter turnout effort, and you can see the results of the DSA's work in just one precinct. And by the way, on the call, when they were talking about this slide, they were also talking about how this specific district had gone for Trump in the general election and about how people went out throughout this district and they had conversations with Trump voters and Republicans in this district who then came around to vote to appreciate Zohran and Zohran's ideas just based on talking about the issues. They specifically targeted Trump voters in this district. And guess what? Zohran Mamdani ended up winning with 71% of the vote in the primary. Do people have questions about how this happened? Then we get into the numbers for the polling results. I'm just going to turn the chat off on the screen again so people can see the whole chart. One of the most interesting things about this call is the Democratic Socialists in New York explained that Andrew Cuomo actually performed exactly as the polls expected him to perform. So Andrew Cuomo, this is how the polls had Andrew Cuomo performing. And guess what? Andrew Cuomo actually performed exactly like the polls expected him to perform. You know who didn't perform like the polls expected them to? Zohran Mamdani. And the reason Zohran Mamdani completely blew out any estimate of what they thought they were going to get for performance was because of the massive voter registration drive and the massive targeting for turnout of voters and the massive targeting of new voters and voters who had previously never voted in New York City's mayor's race before. This is why the polls were not able to predict this at all. Also, apparently, everyone hates Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo has a base of support around 30%, and then everyone else hates him, and they would sooner vote for Zohran Mamdani than Andrew Cuomo. That is how much they hate him. Here are the numbers again the DSA gave on this call. They made 1.6 million knocks on doors. They went actually out into the community, knocked on 1.6 million doors in previously untargeted communities that had never actually even participated in an election contest like this. They made 2.3 million phone calls. Can you just wrap your head around that? This is a group of volunteers. Every single person doing this is volunteers. These are not paid political operatives. These are all people volunteering their time to make phone calls, send emails, send text messages, going out into the real world, knocking on 1.6 million doors. They had over 30,000 unique active volunteers with 50,000 people signed up to volunteer for them. They had over 3,000 events in the 6 months leading up to the New York City mayor's primary in over 60 neighborhoods. And the campaign was specific about the voters. It was targeting the people who hadn't been participating before, the people who are most likely to be pissed off and disaffected at the Democratic Party. And that is why they won. And this chart is one of the most terrifying charts in the entire thing. And I want people to really pay attention to this. This is about fundraising. And again, conservative retards like this asshole with over 330,000 followers have no fuck off clue why Zohran Mamdani won it all, and no clue why he is absolutely 1,000% going to win in the mayor's race, and it's not even going to be close. Thank you, Dragon Balls, for being a member of the channel for 17 months. When candidates say they would visit Israel first as mayor, and Mamdani said he would visit New Yorkers, including Jewish community, wake up, folks. Yeah, that's exactly right. This chart is about fundraising. Now, here's the thing. In New York, they have this weird fundraising thing where if you get $1 in donations from a New York City resident, the actual city will give you $8 for each $1 you raise from a New York City resident. So essentially, if a campaign in New York City can raise $1 million, the city then gives you $8 million in order to be able to do whatever you want to do with the campaign. It's a weird program that they have. So Zohran Mamdani, at the very beginning of the NYC's mayor's race, he set a goal of raising $1 million. Guess what? The Mamdani campaign raised $1 million before any other Democratic candidate even got close, including Andrew Cuomo. And because they raised $1 million, they ended up getting the $8 million before any other candidate got access to that money. So even though Andrew Cuomo may have had higher amounts of donations, like he's getting like thousands and thousands of dollars, the NYC DSA was getting on average an $80 contribution. So they did all this through small donations, which means they had a lot more people supporting this campaign than Andrew Cuomo does. So Andrew Cuomo may have had more money out overall, and Andrew Cuomo outspent them, I think something like 4-1, or maybe it was even higher than that. But Andrew Cuomo's getting all his money through large donations from very rich people, whereas the NYC DSA is getting all their money from small donations from a massive amount of people. And when I say massive, they had over 20,000 individual donors. You look at this chart right here on the side. I know this is hard to see. Zohran Mamdani blew out every other person. Andrew Cuomo's this light blue box right here, 2,700 donors. Zohran Mamdani had 20,000 individual donors across New York City. Andrew Cuomo had 2,700. Does anyone want to guess how many the Republican candidate had? He's right here. He's this brown color. Less than 900 people voted or supported the Republican candidate with a donation during the primary battle. So, if you think that the DSA having a massive army of tens of thousands of volunteers, getting a massive amount of donations, having record high voter turnout, having skyrocketing voter registrations among their targeted demographics. If you think the machine that created all this is just going away, they're more energized than ever. And conservative retards like Sean have no effing idea. And this is the problem with the right. This is the problem with the right that I keep trying to explain to people, is you have morons and midwits like this that are lifted up, given the job of informing the public, and they have no clue why any of this is happening. And even worse than that, when you try to explain it to them, they go, excuse me, you are a manic lunatic. Oh, am I? Am I, Sean? Am I? Am I a manic lunatic, Sean? Am I a manic lunatic? Because I've got all this data from a secret meeting that I infiltrated that you have no fuck off idea about, you raging midwit moron. And all you have is, trust me, that bitch is literally crazy, and look at those typos. You want to know why Zohran Mamdani is going to win? Because the left is far more serious than the right will ever be. And until people fix that, until you stop listening to these retards, until you actually dig into the primary source evidence and you see what's actually going on, there is no way that we are ever going to beat the monster of the left, because this is the level of people that we have on our side. And they spend more time fighting people like me than they do the actual socialists.